All right, what's up, everybody? We are sitting down today, Jim and I are sitting down today with the one, the only, Mr. Chad Mendes, which is...
Did we check the phone book
What's
before we
up,
said
guys?
the only?
Okay,
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's the only, but
you're the only one that I know.
oh, perfect. That's really all that matters. So
He is the one and the only Chad Mendes that we know that is a badass MMA fighter and did a bunch of other cool wrestling stuff and hunter and...
That's
Exactly.
me. That's me.
So, yeah, Jim, I mean...
I interrupted your intro, sorry.
That's
I
all right.
stole it.
You didn't steal it. I got flustered, and then I panicked.
all right. It was the
and then
note-
I-
it
then
was
I
the
You're doing
blanked.
good, Mark. You're doing good.
It was the sweaty nose.
I know. I think we got that cleared up.
Yeah.
So, for those who may not be familiar, if you've been living under a rock, Chad Mendes. I'm gonna go with what I know of Chad. I know there's a lot more layers to this onion, the onion of Chad. But lifelong wrestler,
Yep.
lifelong hunter, college wrestler,
Yep.
MMA fighter, and Finz and Featherz.
Yep. That's the
So
one.
let's start at the beginning.
Let's go. Let's go way back.
Let's open this book.
Yeah, let's do it.
For me, a lot of people don't know this actually. I actually started competing before wrestling. I started wrestling when I was 5 years old. And before that, and this is really funny, I'm sure there's probably some pictures that my sister and my dad have taken and put on social media somewhere, so they're probably online, but me in little Speedos when I was like 4 years old. I used to swim competitively.
Okay.
And I have
Dang.
no clue why or whose idea this was. I don't know if it was my dad's or my stepmom at that time. I don't know, but I still remember, jumping in and just trying to whoop everyone's butt. Just obviously probably technique was horrible, doggy paddling, but I would try to get there as fast as I can and be paddling as hard as I could. But did that before wrestling. And then I still remember my very first day going to my very first wrestling practice. So, obviously to me, wrestling was like, turnbuckles. It's a big ring, WWF. I'm going to elbow slam someone and do a front flip off the top rope.
Grab the chair.
Yeah, that's how I pictured it as a kid, And so I remember me, my brothers, and my dad, we jumped in our vehicle and we're driving. And I'm just like so excited. I'm pumped. I'm just envisioning all that, doing the front flips and slamming people. And we pull up and it was at the West Campus. So our town, it was a pretty small town. We had an East Campus and a West Campus. It was in the big gym. And I remember we walked and we opened the door and I step inside expecting to see the big ring, and it's just wrestling mats and it just stinks like wrestler sweat. It's hot and muggy in there. And I'm just like, what the hell is this? And there's no turnbuckles, nothing to jump from. It's just a bunch of guys, and girls at that time, kids in there wrestling. And I'm just like, this is not what I thought it was. But that, for whatever reason, that memory has stuck with me till now. And I always thought it was funny. But man, I think my first year wrestling, my dad was my coach. So my dad he wrestled growing up, got me and my brothers involved in it. I was a very hyper kid and needed some outlet to get that energy out. So he's like, we're putting this kid in wrestling. But I did really well right off the bat. I think I made it to the state finals.
Wow.
California state finals. It was freestyle, so like Olympic style wrestling. I made it to the finals. I ended up losing in the finals, but it was my first year ever. But I remember being so upset that I lost. Like I remember crying as a little kid, just so mad. And I think that's just the competitive nature in me. From day one, I've just been, put that on a pedestal. Like I have to win always. And, I feel like that has always transitioned to anything I've done, going from 5 years old wrestling. I never took a year off, wrestled every year up through high school, then got recruited, ended up going to Cal Poly, wrestled there. I was a two-time All-American, Pac-10, I think a three-time Pac-10 champ and Pac-10 Wrestler of the Year, I think my senior year. So I got some pretty cool accomplishments done right there in college, and graduated. And I'm like, man, what am I going to do? I want to keep competing. Like I've been competing my whole life. I don't really want to try for the Olympics. And that's my college career is when I met Uriah Faber. He's the California Kid. It was his nickname. Big name in the fight game. Just he was kind of the first little guy to put all the lighter weights on the map. And so meeting him, he was a wrestler. worked out with him a bunch, kept in touch with him. He's like, man, I think you'll be good if you want to try fighting. He's like, if you want to try it, you can move up to SAC. You can crash in my spare bedroom until you can make some money to get your own place. He's like, I'll take you under my wing. And he's like, I think you'll be good. So I graduated. I signed with his management company. And the next day after graduation, I threw all my crap in a U-Haul and drove up to Sacramento, moved into his room, and I jumped straight into pro practices with all those killers at Team Alpha Male. And, man, it was something I was like, man, I love this. Like, I get to beat someone up. I get paid. I was telling you earlier, like, right out of college, like, I'm broke, I'm scrounging, $200 is like a ton of money, So I'm like, I could make, $1,500 and beat someone up and not get in trouble for it. Like, sign me up. So I started training. I think 3 months in, I had my first pro fight. And I went out there and submitted the guy in the first round. I got my check, and I'm just like, dude, this is awesome. This is so cool. I'm hooked.
People are congratulating me for beating that guy up.
We get to have a post party now. Like, everyone's celebrating. I just, choked the guy unconscious. I got paid for it. And, like, this is cool. But
I'm getting paid for something that anywhere else would be assault.
I used to get in trouble in college for this. But, yeah, it was good times, man. We had up there at Team Alpha Male, all the, Faber, Benavidez, TJ Dillashaw, Lance Palmer, Justin Buckles. I mean, we had the all-star team, man. It was all of us, making our way straight out of college. It was all these high-level wrestlers that Faber kind of picked and recruited to come together. So we all had the like-mindedness. Everyone had that wrestling background, just tough, gritty guys, and we ended up forming and making this team that, definitely got on the map. Like, people in the MMA world were like, dude, these Team Alpha Male guys, they're tiny, but they're vicious. We were just all 155s or below. So it was a ton of just, all the lighter weight guys that he brought in, and it was a lot of fun.
Was that when that really, the kind of, I guess, that weight class, if you will, really took off and just started to be almost like
it was cool to not be gigantic?
Yeah, it's like the heavyweight fight was the lightweight guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the lighter weight guys. I mean, we didn't get any. In fact, we didn't get any recognition. But in fact, before that, there was no lighter weight. I think the lightest weight was 155s. When Faber started fighting, he had to fight at 155s. Like, he wrestled at 133s, 125s, 133s.
Whoa!
So he's like, man, I mean, I can't. I have no other choice. But he's wrestling or fighting guys at the 155-pound weight class that are cutting down from probably 170, 180, and but he's whooping guys. He was world champ and. He made a scene for sure, but and I think because of Faber, his excitement, his athleticism, his creativity in the ring, like, I think some of the bigger show guys, Dana, Lorenzo, the Zuffa guys for the UFC, started seeing these, you lighter guys and like, man, these guys are entertaining, and I think that's kind of what put that on the map. So we owe Faber a lot for that, that's for sure.
That's cool, man.
So you said most guys get into MMA out of wrestling. Is that how that usually goes, do you think? Or
this day and age is kind of a mix. I think right off the bat, you had a lot of wrestlers that were making the transition, and it was probably the biggest, just because, in my opinion, and I'm not saying this just because I am a wrestler, but I feel like the wrestling base probably has the best transition into mixed martial arts. You get a lot of guys that are just strikers. In my opinion, it's easier to learn the striking part of it than it is trying to learn the wrestling. So if you've learned the wrestling your entire life and it's kind of become second nature, it's quicker and easier to learn the stand-up part of it versus, the other way around. Mm-hmm. So I think you get a lot of these strikers that were coming in the beginning and had zero wrestling, zero jiu-jitsu, and, they're doing fine on their feet, and then as soon as that guy shoots and takes them down, the fight's over. They just don't know what they're doing. So, I don't know. I just think that transition, the wrestling base was probably the best, just making the transition.
That must have been pretty natural for you. Did you ever have any thought of like going into like boxing, or did that just not interest you because it didn't involve enough of the different variety of techniques and things?
No, I never. I mean, that was definitely never an option for me. I mean, being a wrestler my whole life, it was strange in the beginning. Like, my whole life I've been bent over in wrestling stance, and having to make the transition of like doing everything standing upright felt really weird. But like I said, I only trained for about 3 months before I had my first pro fight. But I'd say 90% of my game was the wrestling. Like, I learned enough defense and offense to just not get knocked out, I guess, and
Right.
be able to close the distance to get a hold of these guys because I knew my strength was the wrestling. So once I got them down, it was good. But no, I mean, the boxing part of it, it took me, I don't know, probably a good 6 fights before I started feeling comfortable on my feet. My goal every time was to get out there and just get the guy to the ground right away. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, that's that timeline between like getting in and 3 months. Like I was expecting to be like, oh, it was a year and a half. And
Yeah.
then it's like, I mean, you definitely fast tracked it.
For sure. And I mean, I think there are a lot of guys that go a little bit longer in the training part, but I think because of the wrestling credential and the guy that I had locked in for my first fight was more of a striking guy, I think my coaches at that point were like, look, his stand-up is good enough to not get knocked out. He knows what he's doing enough to where he can implement his wrestling. So they're like, you're ready, let's do it.
I guess probably no better way than just to
Get in there and go.
jump in with the
Yeah.
sharks.
Another thing too, I'm like, man, I'm training with all these guys at Team Alpha Male who we had Uriah Faber, who is, the WEC world champ. I'm going toe to toe with that guy every single day. Justin Buckles, who was fighting in the UFC already. We had a bunch of guys that were already top level, like world class. And I'm going toe to toe with those guys and I feel really good with them. I'm like, I think I'll be fine going against this guy, my very first fight, who at that point was pretty much a nobody. He didn't have any like specific background or anything. He just started training MMA, and so it was like, let's do this. I feel confident. Let's go.
Yeah.
So you've been wrestling and then now fighting pretty much your whole life. I mean, from the time that you essentially could.
Yeah.
And you've talked in the past too about having done hunting since you were very young. It sounded like your dad would take you out hunting. How did that balance work out? Like when you were growing up, did you split it even, kind of like a 50-50, or were you way more into the wrestling stuff and kind of just you did hunting, or were you way more into hunting? How'd that kind of shake out?
So, I mean, ultimately, if it would have been up to me, I probably would have been hunting more than anything.
Yeah.
But, I'm a little kid. My dad's the one in charge, and he, wanted to see me wrestle more. So I would be so freaking excited when my dad would be like, this weekend, we're not going to go to a wrestling tournament. Let's go hunt. Season's open. We're going to go up. So we would go 2 hours up past Fresno, up into the Sierras, and that's where we grew up deer hunting. We'd set up camp. Absolutely loved camping, me, my brothers, sisters, my dad. And we'd go up there, set up, either a camper trailer or just a couple tents. And, man, that was the funnest thing for me. Like, I loved competing. I loved wrestling. But in all honesty, growing up as a kid, I got horrible anxiety with competition. Like, there was times where I, no joke, I'd be so nervous. And I don't know if it's just because I don't want to lose. And I think I just didn't want to let my dad down. But the thought of losing as a kid, like, it stressed me out big time. Like, there was times driving to tournaments, I was hoping we'd get in like a fender bender or something to where the truck, we couldn't go to the tournament, and, it's just like, that's crazy thinking back on it now. But it stressed me out. I loved competing. I loved winning, but I just didn't want to lose so bad that it was like stressing me. But the hunting and fishing, being in the outdoors I absolutely loved it. There was nothing I didn't like about that. So, like I said, if it was up to me, I probably would have been doing that all the time. I'm glad, obviously, my dad stayed on me and made the wrestling part come true. But, hunting and fishing was something that me and my brothers lived for. I know that time when my dad would be like, tomorrow we're going to get up early, we're going to head up to the mountains. I wouldn't sleep that whole night. Like, I'd just be there so excited. Me and my brother, we had bunk beds, and we would just sit there and talk about, man, what if, because, we hunt up there so much, we knew the areas. Like, what if, this area, there's deer there this year. We saw a couple nice bucks in there last year, growing up, talking about that type of stuff. But, it just was something I absolutely lived for.
Do you ever get that, nervous anxiety when you'd see a deer that you were going to try and shoot? Did that come into play? Is that a little bit of that fear of I don't want to screw this up?
Yeah. I'd get the worst buck fever. And I think it's because growing up as a kid, you see all these magazines, and on the front of them, there's 200-inch deer, these giant bucks, and you flip through all the pages and all these giants that have been taken, and you're like, God, man, I can't even imagine seeing one of these types of deer, And so when it comes to the point, growing up in California, I mean, I don't know if you guys know, but our deer herd is not very good. So there's been seasons we've gone, you know, a legal buck it has to have at least 2 on one side. He's got to be a fork spike, whatever. There's a full season where we wouldn't even see a legal buck, you know. We'd go up there, you know, 5, 6, 7 times throughout the season and go for a weekend at a time, sometimes a week for a time. I remember doing that. And so when you're actually in that moment where you see a legal buck, I remember just getting like completely Twitter pated, just like lose my mind. Like I remember one year, and it was I want to say I was probably 14, and I think I missed probably 7 bucks with a rifle.
Really?
No joke. It was the best year that we had I'd ever had up there. Like, you never, ever see that many legal bucks in a season, ever. And for whatever reason, I just kept being in the right place at the right time because I didn't really know what I was doing back then. Like, looking back on it, it's like you get on a dirt road and I'm like, I'm just going to walk real slow and see if I can hopefully see something. I'd not scouted the area. I don't know what's there, like, you know.
Onyx wasn't a thing.
Yeah, there's no, you know, there's no way to like figure out any of that stuff. And but just being at the right place at the right time, I want to say it was like 6 or 7 times that year. And a lot of the times, I mean, there was one, it was probably 20 yards. It was a nice 4x4, which is huge. Blacktail, you know, he was the biggest buck I'd ever seen. And I pulled up. I mean, it was like, I looked over, legal buck. And I just pulled up. As soon as I saw fur in the scope, I pulled the trigger. And he just looks around and like runs off. I'm like, no. And I'll admit, I actually shed a few tears on that one and wanted to break the gun. But my dad's like, I'm like, it has to be off. The scope has to be off. And he's like, let me see. And so he shot one at a stump. We walked over there and it was like right where he shot it. I was like, no.
Oh, man.
But yeah, I mean, those memories growing up, the outdoor lifestyle was, you know, like I said, it's everything that I always wanted to do. It was in high school, like me and my buddies. I had the group of buddies that those are my hunting buddies, you know. And, you know, I remember trading bows with each other. Like, hey, I got this. Like, I'll trade you your bow for it. It's like, okay. And, you know, we'd trade bows and I'd get that bow all set up for me and I'd shoot it in my backyard all day. But man, there's just so many good memories of that stuff as a kid.
Dude, how did your dad do that? How many siblings were with you guys out there when you'd go?
Usually there'd be like 3 of us. Like, not everyone would go. Some of my brothers and sisters were pretty young and they'd stay back. But it was usually me, my brother Mikey, my younger brother Cody. If he did go, he'd usually stay at camp or something with my stepmom.
Gotcha.
And but yeah, usually it would be me, my dad, and my brother Mikey. That would be the ones that go out and hunt.
Okay, yeah, I was thinking if he's like trying to corral everybody, that'd be
that would have been madness.
Yeah,
dude, I think about that growing up with my dad and him, you know, taking us hunting, and for several years, like, I mean, grew up hunting Western Washington, you just didn't see a lot of deer, and then also I think toting us around as kids, like. Was also a big reason we didn't see a lot of deer, but he still took us.
Yeah, that's cool, you know. So I'm expecting my first in April, and you know, I think about all those times going out with my dad, and I'm sure we probably blew quite a few stalks, or you know, we're making a ton of noise. He's telling us to try to be quiet, and we're stepping on every twig and snapping everything, you know. But
what'd you say?
Yeah,
be quiet.
Yeah. And so I just remember all those times, and you know, he's got to have the most patience in the world, because for me, like, hunting, like, I'm obsessed with it, and it's going to be tough for me with my child to be able to do that. And looking back on him, like, he definitely had a ton of patience working with us. But I'm excited, man. I don't know if I'm having a boy or a girl. We're going to wait to find out. But I think either way, girl, you know, I'd love to get him in the outdoor lifestyle and just want to be a part of what means so much to me, you know. And so I'm excited for it, man. My wife, she never hunted, and as soon as we started dating, she started getting into the lifestyle a little bit. She's hunted now. We had she's killed a wild boar. She's killed a few turkeys with their bow, and doesn't really buy store-bought meat anymore. Like, she lives off of all the stuff that I bring home, which is really cool. But it's awesome being able to grow a family that is going to be, you know, so involved in the outdoor lifestyle. And that means a lot to me. So
yeah. I mean, that's super cool that your wife's getting involved, because then it's, you know, you going hunting or even just hunting. It's not like, well, I'm leaving to do this. It's like, no, we can all go do this together as a family. That's really special, man. That's cool.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, obviously she can't always go. And sometimes the waking up at 4 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning isn't her favorite thing to do. So she'll sit it out. But, you know, those trips where she does go, that means a lot to me. I love it, you know, even if I don't always show her, like, because I don't want to be over the top with it. But that's freaking awesome to me, man. Like, I love it. Having my wife, one of my best friends, there by my side, doing something that I absolutely love, like, what better thing is there in the world? So, yeah, hopefully our kid is into it and
that's cool. Yeah.
loves it.
I keep trying to get my wife to go out, and I've kind of like gotten on. I think she's moving towards it maybe, and I keep just calling it like, yeah, we'll just go out on a nature walk.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, a nature walk sounds nice. And I was like, well, I'll have a gun. She'd be like, okay.
Yeah, I see what you're doing there.
We've evolved from like, I don't know, to like, okay, maybe.
Yeah.
So we're making some headway.
Baby steps.
Yeah.
It took me a bit with my wife too. Like it's not that she was against hunting. She's just like, I just don't know if I could kill it. You know, I don't think I could kill an animal, take an animal's life. Like, we have a dog, and she, you know, associates everything with our dog, and I'm like, it's, you know, you gotta get that association out of your head. You know, you eat meat, like we gotta go put meat in the freezer. You know, if you're gonna eat it. And it took a while. It took a few years, but I think what changed it is she actually started going on hunts with me. And we did this really, really cool backcountry hunt up in Oregon. It was me, her, and my dad. We stayed in a wall tent, you know, a little wood-burning stove, cots. It was just super cool, you know. Just we stayed out there for like a week, and we would all go out. A couple times she'd go out with my dad, and they got on some elk, and, you know, she's like sneaking with my dad. Or she'd go out with me, and I ended up killing a bull with her right there. She was actually filming it. I put it on my YouTube. It's one of the hunts, but she's filming right behind me, and we know there's a bull up and over this draw. I just don't know how close. So I'm trying to make my way up there, and I'm looking a little bit higher, looking, and all of a sudden I hear bam, and I was like, what the hell was that? And I looked back behind me, and she had kneeled down to film, and she had shooting sticks, and they fell. Wham!
Oh.
And we didn't know, but that bull was 40 yards on the other side of that hill. And so she's just like, I'm so sorry. Like, about to cry, you know? I'm like, it's fine, it's fine. I didn't hear anything run off.
It's fine, you just ruined everything. It's fine.
That's what I'm thinking in my head. But I'm like, it's good, it's good. And so I sneak up a little bit higher, and I see the tips of that bull, like, looking our direction. I'm like, oh, crap. So I just sit there and watch until I finally see him turn his head, and then I stood up and ended up shooting him at like 40.
That's awesome.
So she got to see all that go down, and it was like the most excitement. Like, we had put in probably 4 or 5 days of hard hunting, been close a couple times, couldn't get it make it happen. And she was right. So she got to see what hunting is all about. You know, there's a lot of hard times you put in, tons of miles. Like, we were doing probably 15 miles a day, in some pretty steep country. So she was like, yeah, she got the real deal on that one.
Yeah.
And so when we actually harvested the elk, she's like, wow, this is awesome. Like, the hard work, it all paid off. And I think after that, she's like, I think I could do this. And that was the first time she'd ever told me that. And so I was like, well, we'll start off smaller. We'll do something like turkey. So we took her out for spring turkey, and she ended up killing. Her first turkey actually had 4 beards. We didn't even know it. She ends up shooting it with a shotgun, and I walk up to it, and I'm like, are you kidding me? This thing is a giant. And then the next spring, she's like, I really want to try with my bow. So then she ended up killing one with her bow, and it was a monster as well. I'm like, you're done with the turkeys. Like, get out of here.
It was cool at first, and now it's not. That's awesome.
That elk story, though, like, even as you're telling it, like, in my head, I'm like, man, I bet. And just, I mean, that's so cool. Like, her willingness to, like, go in and put in all that effort and suffer a little bit, but then having it all come together, like, just as you're telling them, I'm like, God, I bet that connected like all the dots for her.
For sure. And she even helped me pack the thing out. So we were down, they called them the breaks. They're these like really steep draw, like a huge canyon that comes down. And he was probably midway down. So we had to pack that sucker, I don't know, it was probably at that point, probably 7 or 8 miles back to camp. So it was right before dark. There's wolves in the areas. There's mountain lions, obviously. And so she's just shining the light, like holding legs. Like, I'm doing all the cutting and getting it all set up. But she's like sitting there hands on, like helping me do it all. That's the first time she's ever seen any of that, like done any of that. And then hiked at everything, not everything. We took as much as we could. So we ended up using that bull. The goal was to hopefully get one that year because we got married that following year. And we wanted to use that the backstraps, that meat for the wedding. So that was another thing I think that really made her excited, because now we had meat for our wedding party. And so she was like, you know, cutting the backstraps out. We're loading those up in our packs and head and the cape and like hiking all that stuff out. And I think it was really cool for her just to kind of be a part of all that. And I think that, like you said, connected all the dots for her.
Heck yeah. I think, you know, one of those things is like, you talk about folks like, it sounded like maybe your wife, she just hadn't grown up around hunting and stuff like that. I think it's been a similar case with my wife, like I was just talking about. I think you see a lot of people like that where they just, with a lot of things, it might not be hunting. We see it all the time. It's just being in our industry, in our company. You know, obviously we deal with hunting and firearms, which are like, if you want to pick 2 hot button topics in the world right now, it's like those are 2 huge ones. And you see a lot of people where it's like, by not growing up with it, I feel like, especially as young kids, a lot of time your mind is, everybody says your mind is very moldable. And then once it kind of molds, it's hard to get out of that. And you see a lot of people where they're like, you know, hunting is just, I don't want to kill an animal. It reminds me of Bambi or our dog or whatever, you know, some cute thing. My teddy bear on my bed, you know, and then once that gets ingrained in your head, it's hard to switch directions.
Yep.
It's that way for a lot of people. But like when you guys end up having your child here coming up in April, have you guys discussed as like maybe what age? Is there like an age number that you've thought of as to when you might take them out hunting, or just kind of
we haven't talked about age-wise or anything like that, but I'm just going to, you know, fill it out. If I feel it's appropriate and it's time, you know, then that's when we'll do it. But I know she's completely open to it. I mean, it's hunting in the Mendes household is such a staple now. Like, obviously working with so many companies in the outdoor industry, creating Finz and Featherz for me, you know, that's going to be my transition after the fight game. You know, I can't fight forever. It's a very brutal sport. You know, I've always talked about doing it for a certain amount of time and then, you know, hopefully starting something to where I can make a transition into the outdoor world, which is my ultimate passion. Like, I've loved it my entire life, and it's something that means a lot to me. So I think having all that be a part of my life, it's transitioned in her life, which is going to be a transition into my child's life, you know? And so it's definitely something that is huge for us. It's not, you know, a lot of people think of hunting, and I get this all the time on comments, like, I don't understand why you like killing things as a hobby. Like, it's not a hobby for me. Like, this is my lifestyle. Like, I would rather go out and hunt an animal, fill my freezer with that meat, than go to the store and buy something, you know? Not saying I don't ever do that. Of course I do. Like, you know, but I would rather, and most of the time, I'd say 90% of the time, I eat the wild stuff that I have in my freezer. My friends come over. I prepare wild game meats. My friends want some meat. I hand it out. Like, that means a lot to me, you know, and that's what I love to do. And I think that's something that will always be a part of our life now.
That's cool. This is slightly off topic or going in a different direction or whatever, but we like rabbit trails around here.
Perfect.
So you've mentioned, and we've seen on your Instagram, for example, you post a picture of, you know, some wild game you've harvested or a bull or a buck that you got or something like that. And then there's always the negative Nancy's that come in and they start voicing their opinions, usually anti-hunting. And as a fighter, do you ever feel like maybe you get targeted with that a little bit extra? Because I feel like I've seen, now I'm not going to say like a blanket statement like I've seen it everywhere, but I feel like there is sometimes undertone where people are like, man, those fighters, all they ever want to do is just beat stuff up. Like, you know, they're very aggressive, like mean people. And we're sitting here with you right now, and like you're super, I don't know if I should say you're a nice guy. I don't know if that's like, I don't know if that's faux pas, but you know, you seem like you don't want to beat us up. So, yeah.
Which we appreciate.
Which we do, because we would be basically defenseless. But, you know, I just think, do you feel like you maybe get that a little extra? Do people ever, you know, I'm worried about you because you fight people a lot and then you're going out and you're killing animals? Or
I think in the beginning of my career, there was a lot of people, especially because the fight game was kind of a newer thing. Like, the UFC was just kind of blowing up. You know, it wasn't so much a household name as it is now. And so it's like, oh, what do you do for a living? I'm like, I cage fight. Like, wait, what? Like, yeah, I get in a cage, a locked cage, and I beat another person up. They're like
Fight Club, but on TV.
And so it was like, you know, trying to tell my wife's mom this, it's like, you know, she probably thinks I'm going to beat her daughter up or something, you know, and it's not like that at all. Like, for me, it's the competition part of it. It's not like for me to go out there and fight, I don't have to hate this person. Like this isn't something to where there's, you know, an argument and I want to beat this guy up because he doesn't agree with me type thing, you know. It's a competition. I'm studying all the techniques, I'm training, I'm, you know, doing all the things necessary to be the best fighter that I can be, just like any basketball player or soccer player or football player, you know, all the same thing. There's technique, there's, you know, all the strength and conditioning stuff that goes with it. So I see it like that. I'm just going out there, I'm going to try to compete. I'm going to try to be a better competitor than this person. I don't really care about the quote unquote fighting part of it, you know? And so I think once people finally start to get to know me, and I think, you know, seeing me on social media, doing the YouTube stuff, like that's the real me. Like people, there's probably that stigma of, oh, he's just a dickhead, he's a fighter, you know, but I'd say 99% of us are pretty chill people, you know, like fighters, we know what kind of dedication and sacrifices we all go through. Like I like all the other fighters. There's a couple that are dicks, you know, Conor McGregor being one of them. You know, the guy's just, I've tried talking to him behind closed doors, and he's just kind of still just an arrogant, I don't know if he just sees me as competition type guy or what, but most of the guys you can have a normal conversation with. Like we all respect each other, and, you know, I'm not going to just go up to some random dude on the street and be like, I'm going to whoop this dude's butt, you know, I'm going to go start something with him. Like there's no need for that. So, you know, I think once people get to know me, they realize that it's not like that. And then, you know, you throw the hunting part of it in there. And I think, you know, in the beginning of my career, I wasn't posting the hunting stuff. Like I've always been a hunter, loved fishing, loved the outdoors. But in the beginning, I was kind of told, like, I probably wouldn't do too much of that. You're going to get a lot of negative kickback on that. So it was kind of slow in the beginning. And I kind of got to the point where I'm just like, you know what? This is me. This is what I love to do. Screw this. Like, if people don't want to see it, don't follow me, you know?
Yeah.
Like, this is me. This is what I'm doing. Like, I'd rather have one follower that enjoys doing what I'm doing in my lifestyle and understands it versus a million people that hate it, you know? Like, and so I think when I first started posting it, I would get a lot of negative stuff.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like a lot of the fight fans, not a lot, there's a good chunk of fight fans, you know, a lot of people that are foreigner, you know, that don't understand that type of lifestyle. It's just not part of their culture. They don't get it. There's a lot of them that do, you know, and there's a lot of people here in the U.S. that understand the outdoor lifestyle, why I hunt, and there's a lot of people that don't. And I think it's just always going to be that way, you know, no matter what. But I think over the last few years of me kind of weeding out the people that don't want to understand, like I won't block someone if they don't understand, but they're reasonable. And if I explain something to them, they're like, oh man, I guess I've never looked at it that way. Man, that's actually pretty cool.
Yeah. Even if
That's
somebody
cool.
still says, like, I still disagree with you, but as long as they say
Yeah,
that, it's
exactly.
like, cool.
You have the right
friends.
to disagree with me. Like, you know, I'm not saying that you have to be a hunter. I'm not saying that everybody needs to go out and do that. I choose to do that. Like, I choose to eat meat, and I know if I choose to eat meat, something's got to die. And I would rather go do it myself than have a cow that's been, you know, side to side with 100, you know, 200 other cows crammed in a little pen all in there, you know, sitting there for their entire lives and then slaughtered. Like, I'd rather go out and kill a deer that's been free and, to me, tastes better anyways, and, you know, go out, hunt it, my wits versus theirs, and put that meat in my freezer. Like, I just would rather do that.
There's two things I find interesting here. The first one is, I think that's actually the second time that Conor McGregor's been badmouthed on our podcast. So, like, I think somebody else, I feel like in the past episode said something about like, now it wasn't talking about like a fist to fist, just straight up fight, but it was like, I'd kick Conor McGregor's butt at something else. If it was like reloading or hunting or whatever, I don't remember what.
Bizarre.
So second time, but hey, just for the record, Conor, me and Mark didn't say those things. So
Yeah.
we're gonna use Chad as a
And
shield.
again, really, it's just all in an effort not to get hit. I mean, that's really my main goal here. But, you know, it's funny, though. I mean, you talk about that, like, as much as maybe a person might not understand why you hunt or I hunt or Jim hunts, like, in some ways, I don't understand, like, how they don't.
Exactly.
But also, I don't go on their social page and berate them for not hunting. It's like, it's cool. It's cool. Like, that's just a choice,
Oh,
you know?
you eat freaking, beets. I hate beets. You're stupid.
Yeah, exactly. It's so tough, man. And I think this day and age, it's even more tough because social media has made it to where nobody is held accountable for things that they say. Like I can go on anybody's Instagram page and say whatever the hell I want, and there's nothing they can do about it. You know?
Yeah.
And people realize that, and I think there are people that, and I totally understand this because I've been in this mindset where there's something you don't know anything about it. You just have an opinion about it. So it's like I see, like, say I've never hunted, and I'm like, God, that just sounds so barbaric. Like, these guys just love blood. They love killing. They're just murderers. And so you have that in your head, but you don't know anything about it. Then you start doing some research or someone enlightens you on it, and you're like, dude, I had no clue. That's crazy. And this whole time, my entire life, I've always thought this, but it's actually this. Once you've been enlightened or like learn about it, it's like it's a completely different story. And I've been in that situation, so I understand. And that's why I'm saying, like, I'll have people that make a comment. If I can explain, and enlighten them on why that is wrong, that statement they've made is wrong. If they're the type of person that's willing to go, I've never looked at it that way, that's pretty cool, I'm going to do a little more research. Like, that is awesome to me. But no matter what, you're always going to get those people that will just make a completely stupid comment. You murderer, you just love murdering animals. And you click on their page and they're sitting there eating a steak or, a piece of pizza with pepperonis all over it.
Mm-hmm. And they didn't even finish
they're
and threw away.
taking pictures of them with their food. And it's like, well, why do you got to pose with the dead animal? Well, why are you posing with that piece of pizza?
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of the same thing.
Those
like,
pepperonis come from like 7 dead animals on that one pizza.
And
probably.
so there's just a lot of those types of people, no matter what you say to them, they're just not going to change their mind. They're the types of people that are the ones that will, like I was just saying, they're never going to be held accountable for what they say. They just want to talk crap, no matter what. So
the other thing I found interesting about it too is I guess especially maybe in your case of people who follow you who maybe kind of diss the hunting thing is I feel like people who follow you they like fighting, they like MMA, they like that kind of stuff. And when I look at fighting and hunting, I think of two of the most primitive things that humans have been doing since the dawn of creation. It's like humans have fought other humans hand to hand, and they have hunted and gathered. And it's like, I mean, they did other stuff too. I'm not, but those are two of the things that humans have been doing forever. And it's like, I guess I feel like if somebody watches and enjoys MMA fighting, you're watching something that has, maybe not in that exact way, but you're watching something that's been happening since forever, just like hunting.
Couple long time activities there.
A couple
for us
of
humans.
things that are somewhere deep down in that DNA. Once you get past all the mochas and things like that these days, but yeah, no, I find that kind of interesting.
it's crazy.
Yeah. But we want to also talk about, we were thinking, just looking at your hat too, and you've got this Finz and Featherz hat on.
Yep.
We were discussing this a little bit right before we got on. This is a pretty sweet kind of organization, or I guess company that you have now. And for those not familiar, can you tell us a little bit more about what that is?
Yeah, so Finz and Featherz is a brand that me and my good buddy, my business partner, is a guy that I've known for a while now, have kind of come up with and created. We launched it back in 2015. So what we call it's a celebrity outdoor service. So what we do is we take people on different really cool hunting, fishing trips all over the world. We'll book a group of clients on each of those trips. And then what we do is we have about 20 different celebrity pro staff members, different fighters, pro basketball, baseball, football players, some actors, pro snowboarders, just a mix of all kinds of different celebrities and athletes. And what we'll do is they all love the outdoors. Every single person that we bring on in that space loves hunting, loves fishing, and they're open about it on their social, And so it's cool for people. So what we do is we'll put one of those on the hunt or the fishing trip with the clients. So they get to go on a cool trip with them, and now they get to do it with somebody that maybe they see on TV, someone that they watch play a certain sport.
Yeah.
And it's something that's new and unique in the industry. What's cool about it is, you can go to a meet and greet, you can meet this person, you shake their hand, you take a picture with them, you maybe get 2 to 5 minutes, and that's it. You don't get to know anything about that person. What's cool about these trips, and I'm sure you guys know this, but hunting and fishing it's such a bonding experience. It's the camaraderie, like everything in camp on those types of trips. It's unlike anything else that you can do, And so what's cool is these clients now get to share that with this celebrity, someone that they see, like I said, play sports on TV, whatever it is, and they get to know them more on a personal level, And so it's already cool that they're doing that cool trip they would probably do anyways, but now they get to do it with this other person, ask them any question they want in camp. Usually they'll, hang out if they want to have a couple beers, like whatever it is. It's just a relaxing kind of down home type feel. Like you're getting to hang out with somebody and do a cool hunting fishing trip and get to know them on a little bit better.
That's super cool.
No, that is super cool. And yeah, I mean, and almost even initially, like I was thinking like, oh, it's cool. You get to meet this person, like you said, that you see on TV, but I mean, you're 10,000% right. It's like, if you want to get to know somebody, like truly get to know them on like a deep level, and go hunt or fishing with them.
Yeah. Sharing around the campfire, like telling stories, like asking questions, sharing that moment of, harvesting that animal or catching that giant fish or whatever it is. Like that's the stuff that you'll never get to do anywhere outside of these trips, with that person.
Yeah,
so
going through both successes and failures. Like I think back on times I've gone hunting with Mark, and it's like times where we go squirrel hunting, we walk around the woods for hours and don't see a single squirrel, and it's like, how is that even actually possible? And then, you talk about when Mark almost choked on beef jerky in the back of my truck, and we had to, luckily Ryan Buchanan was there, who's kind of like a quasi paramedic. I don't even know what actually certified him, but he basically,
saved your life.
Yeah, I don't know if he saved your life. I think you kind of hucked it out of there a little bit yourself, but he was at least there, for moral support.
Yeah,
I don't know how that worked out.
Yeah, it was one of those deals we'd hunted all day, and it's funny. It's like I love eating wild game and this, that, the other, but like it's tough just the way we live now. Like you just can't avoid like I love eating wild game. It's the meals are like the most special to me, but also like you have to be realistic, and you're just going to eat like game that you didn't harvest. And that beef jerky was some of that. We'd hunted all day, super ravenous, and I just shoved her down the pipe a little.
Yeah,
quick.
we were out in like it was sub-zero weather, and we didn't get anything that day, so we'd been climbing around in snow and everything in hills, and we got back to the truck, and it was like there was a pack of beef jerky. It was going to be consumed, and you went hard.
Why are we talking about this?
I don't know, but I'm saying that, like, let's say you're out with some celebrity that you've seen on TV. I hope nobody chokes on one of your trips. I promise. I'm just saying, you might go through some of this stuff where it's like, oh, remember that time when so-and-so like fell down, and it's just, that's the kind of stuff where it's like you really get to know somebody when, anyway.
Yeah. Yep. I got what you're saying.
Yeah, Jim, we'll always have that moment.
It's, plus it's just fun to bring up embarrassing Mark stories, I guess, on the podcast, apparently. But you said,
sorry,
so could you like name drop some of the people that you're working with then, like your pro staff?
So Scotty Lagos, our pro snowboarder, he's actually going to be here at the show. I think he gets in either today or tomorrow. He'll be bouncing around the Mountain Ops booth and the Finz and Featherz booth. We have Bear Pasco, played in the NFL. We have Willie Bloomquist, pro baseball player. We have I'm drawing a blank on his name. Basketball player. Brain fart. I just had one of these out there with you. It's what happens when you get punched in the head for a living. It just happens sometimes.
It's quite all right. But somebody from the NBA then?
Yeah, I don't know why I'm drawing a blank. I see his face.
Can you remember the team?
Yeah, it's Sacramento.
Sacramento Kings?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a team that I
cannot believe I'm drawing a blank on his name right now. But anyways, we have Max Terriot. He's an actor. He goes on a lot of our fishing stuff.
That's cool.
Loves the outdoor lifestyle, loves fishing. It's really bothering me that I can't think of his name right now. But
that's why we have the Google machine.
Yep. You'll get it. The second we jump off here, you'll be like, aha!
I know. No, I'm going to, let's Google that because this is driving me insane. If you guys don't mind.
Marvin Bagley, Buddy Hield, Harrison Barnes.
No, I'm just going to go like this. All right. So Faber is also another one.
Oh, okay.
Uriah Faber, he's
Nice.
obviously UFC, but he goes on a lot of trips with us. He's done our Texas helicopter trip. He's gone fishing. We did our San Diego fishing trip, the tuna trip.
Oh, nice.
TJ Dillashaw is another fighter. Paige Van Zant. Trying to find. Oh, Clay Guida. You guys know who Clay Guida is, right? UFC.
Oh, okay.
He's the caveman. The guy that never stops moving in the cage. Good guy. Brad Miller is who I was thinking of.
Okay.
God, I
Cool.
don't know why the hell I couldn't. Sorry, but anyway, so we got our list is on our website, finsandfeathers.com, and both Finz and Feathers spelled with a Z. But you guys can check out all our trips, the schedule page with pricing and dates and all the different celebrities, like everything that's on there.
How do you manage to corral a bunch of people that are doing, I mean, even you yourself, I'm sure you can't always be on that kind of stuff with your training regimen. And, when the season comes around, I don't know how your guys' season actually works out compared to a basketball season is very start and finish. I don't know if you guys are pretty much year round or what, but how do you corral those guys?
Yeah, the fight game is year round, and typically you fight, anywhere from 1 to 3 times a year. And so the fight game can be a little tricky. What we typically do is we'll have all of our. So what we do is we put a full year-long list together. Like all our trips are already set in stone. Like our tuna trip is going to be this date. Our Oregon elk hunt is going to be this date. So everything is set in stone, which makes it easy. So it's not just like random bookings. And then what we'll do is we'll go through and reach out to each of the celebrities like, hey, we have a elk hunt in Oregon, these dates. Is this something you think you can possibly do? And they'll look at their calendar. If it's open, they'll say, yes, tentatively put me on. If they have something, obviously, no. And so we'll do usually like 3 or 4 possible celebrities, and we list that on the page. So there's a chance some of these people aren't going to be able to go, but at least one of them will be on the trip. So, we try to bounce that around. And then as we get closer to the trip, we're in touch with the clients, and I'm in touch with that celebrity. If we know, like usually it's within a month or 2 out, that person's like, yeah, I'll be able to do it, no problem. And that's how we lock it in. It's a lot of scheduling on our end for sure.
Yeah.
We have had some last minute cancellation stuff that, maybe the celebrity couldn't do it, so we'd have to find somebody else. But I mean, these guys are going on really cool hunts with people that are very like-minded. They love, the outdoors. All these guys are like, dude, sign me up. Anytime you have an opening, like get me in here. So it's really cool. Like all these guys are really close buddies of mine. So that definitely helps as well. So
you think there's other folks out there that might be in kind of these public eye positions who also like hunting, but maybe they're a little nervous to do something like that?
Oh, for sure.
Like we were just talking about one in particular who owns or runs or manages a large company with a blue logo and an F on it. And how like we were just saying like, well, it's weird. Like it seemed like almost like,
follow, Jim.
Yeah, well, sorry, Mark. I don't even know if you have one of those. You don't have a PayPal, so I wouldn't expect you to. But like it seemed like that person liked hunting or whatever, but then all of a sudden it just disappeared off the map, and then now it almost seems like they hate it or what's going on.
Yeah.
But you think there's other folks out there like that who are a little bit gun shy?
100%. I know that there is because I have a bunch of buddies that are in the limelight that don't post about it. They can't post about it. They're like, man, I'll get fired if I do it, and it sucks because they absolutely love it. Like it's something that I do with them all the time, every single year. And, if we do a video, I'm like, dude, you got to get out. Like we're going to do a video or let's take a picture, but you can't be in it. It sucks. Man. It's stupid. It shouldn't have to be like that. But
I mean, and that shouldn't be like
reality.
That's reality to live in.
Yeah. I mean, anytime like you have to hide like a big part of who you are, I mean, that's just, I don't know, man.
It's different if you have to hide like, your favorite CD that you listen to in the car. Like that's different. But when you have to hide a part of your lifestyle.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean,
NSYNC is okay, Jim. Okay.
Oh, I was guessing Taylor Swift. For
Britney Spears. What are you talking about?
Oops, I did it again.
Yeah. But yeah, man, it's tough. Like I said in the beginning, it's really whenever I started social media. Like I didn't really start it till into college, really, but right after college started the fight game. But that's what I was saying. Like managers, like people are telling me I probably wouldn't do it, and I didn't for a while. And that's when I got to that point where I'm just like, dude, this is me. Like, I don't want to not post this. Like, this is who I am. And I just can't imagine going from then till now and keeping that all secret. Like, there's no way.
And then the point of social is to like connect with people, right? So if you're not giving them who you are, you're not truly connecting, you know, and exactly with these trips, like that's an opportunity to truly connect with people. And I'm sure like even these people, you know, quote unquote celebrities, right? Like I would have to imagine that you personally are even like way closer to these people because you've had these experiences with them.
Yeah, I've hunted with, I think, almost either gone on hunting trips or fished with every single one of our guys. There are a few that I haven't, but know that they do it and they love it. But yeah, man, it's definitely, like I said, that bonding experience, and doing that, even though, you know, I follow them for what they do, or maybe I am a fighter and they're a fighter. Like, so obviously we have that connection, but outside of it, like the hunting and fishing is our connection, and that's what brings us all together. But yeah, man, I honestly can't imagine having to hide that part of my life, especially for that long. There's no way.
Yeah. And especially somebody in your position too, with a lot of followers and influence, you know, it's like, it's too bad that once you get a lot of that influence, all of a sudden it becomes harder to talk about these things. And you're trying to talk about them and give them a good light. And we've said, I feel like I've said in a lot of podcasts, you know, it's like it takes a couple of bad eggs to ruin anything, right? It takes a couple of poachers to ruin hunting or whatever, you know, and then all of a sudden you're trying to show as somebody with influence, it's like, hey, that's not what it's about. We're not poaching. We're not just going for racks, leaving all the meat. We're not doing whatever that is, like just tearing up the landscape.
Yeah.
And you're trying to show that, but people don't like it.
Yeah, it's tough, man. And that just goes back to what I was saying earlier. Like, once you have something in your head and you don't really, truly know the facts, like that's just, you're going to have an opinion, and it's typically a negative one. And it's like, I get those people all the time that are like, I hope you didn't just leave all that meat there. It's like, A, that's illegal. Like, B, no, that's the reason why I'm doing this. Like, I'm getting meat to live off of. But, you know, they just don't know. Like, they don't know anything about the hunting lifestyle, the outdoor lifestyle. It's like they see a picture and they're like, I hope you didn't just kill that and leave it there. Like, no, I don't do that. Like, you know, and so
it's like when you get a new gun, if somebody was like, I hope you didn't just get that shipped to your house with absolutely no checks and balances in place. It's kind of like, well, actually, I couldn't have.
They just don't know, right? You know? And it's funny to me that people will go out of their way to make a negative comment on something if they're not fully aware of the entire situation, or they don't know the facts. Like, I mean, I guess that just goes back to the social media thing. They can say whatever they want without being held accountable, but it's just crazy to me. I don't know.
Yep.
Back to the Finz and Featherz thing, I was going to ask too. What's the reactions from some of the folks who've gone out with celebrities been like? Do they just get super stoked?
Yeah, I mean, typically there's a lot of people that are just, they get nervous. It's like they're already nervous because it's a hunt, you know? And what's even crazier is usually I vlog it. And if I go on the trip, I'm vlogging it for my YouTube. And I ask them ahead of time, like, are you guys okay being on camera? And usually they're like, oh, yeah, that's cool. But when that camera actually comes out, it's just like silence, you know? And they're just super nervous. Like, you know, they're already probably nervous because of the hunt. Like, they got an animal in front of them. And, you know, it's nerve-wracking. And then you got a camera that's filming you. There's a little bit of pressure there. You don't want to mess up. And then I'm there with them, you know? And so it's, you know, some guys, they kind of crumble a little bit, but everyone always has a good time. Like, we haven't had a trip where, you know, people are like, man, that was cool. Like, even if they didn't get something, you know, if they shot and missed at something, or, you know, it's still like, man, that was an awesome trip. So for me, like, when we first launched, I had no clue how this was going to go. Like, I don't know if people are going to just be like, that's ridiculous. I'm not booking anything with that, you know, but I'm like, let's just give it a try, you know? So the first year we launched our schedule, sold out of everything. We're like, holy crap. Like, that was awesome.
That's great.
Ended up being, knock on wood, but we were successful on every single trip. Everybody got something that first year on every single one of them. And all those clients, most of them jumped over to the next year. And then we grew, I want to say like 4 or 5 new trips, sold out of all that. And I'm like, dude, this is like, we could keep growing this. This is cool. And so we kind of got to the point this year where, like, this is fun for me. Like, this isn't, I mean, it's a money maker. Like, this is part of my job, but I don't want it to be work ever. So like we've gotten to the point where it's like, okay, I'm kind of at where I'm at my max on being able to manage all this stuff and my business partner. Let's kind of keep it here. Like it's doing good, you know, and it's still fun. It's not stress. It's not too much work. So I think we'll keep it at kind of the size it's at now and just keep doing what we've been doing. It's so much fun getting to, you know, meet these clients. A lot of them I've become really good friends with, and we'll go do trips outside of the Finz and Featherz trip stuff, just like friend trips now.
Cool.
And
Yeah, and that goes back to that building that bond. You know that, and I wanted to ask that, but then I ended up not. Was like through these trips, like have you just developed friendships
For sure.
And you're just like, yeah, what's up, bro? Do you want to go
we'll,
do something?
We'll go do other hunting or fishing trips outside of it, or other things. Like I've gone to concerts with some of these guys.
Yeah, sure.
Some of them are based out of Sacramento, and he's like, hey, let's go to this concert. You want to go? My wife's going. I'm like, so you know, we're friends. Like that, we hang out. Like that's cool. These guys are all cool people. We haven't had any like super weird people yet. Knock on wood.
Yeah, that's definitely
I'm expecting it to happen eventually, but so far everybody's been really cool. You know, everyone is avid outdoorsmen. We have had some beginners, but this is another really cool
that's neat.
thing.
Nice.
Is we'll get people. I've probably had a dozen people now the last couple years. I've watched your YouTube channels. I love the hunting and cooking part of it. I would love to be able to get my own wild game meat and start cooking, but I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
So I'll kind of tell them like, okay, first thing you got to get your hunter safety course done. You know, this is it could be a 1-day course. Like go get this done. It's really simple. Once you have it, you can hunt in pretty much any state, you know, and you'll never have to take it again. So they'll go and do it. And then they come back. They're like, all right, and they're all excited. I got my hunter safety. I passed. I got it. Now let's plan something. So, you know, we'll get a trip put together for them and we'll take them out. You know, we've multiple times, you know, wild pigs or turkeys or whatever it is, we'll get them their first animal. We'll get their meat all situated for them, and then they'll take us, you know, send us pictures after the meat's been all processed and packaged and everything. They're like, dude, this is so cool. Like that part of it right there is what makes Finz and Featherz like so awesome to me.
Oh, dude, yeah, you're lighting up talking about it.
If I could help, like the beginner hunters, I mean, we've taken guys that have hunted all over the world, you know, and it's fun. You know, but the expectations, you know, it's got to be this, or I'm not going to take it kind of thing. That's not why I do this. That's not fun. I mean, it's not as fun for me. When they succeed and they're happy, that's fun for me. But taking those beginner hunters they don't know anything, you know, there's no expectations, you know, they don't know what they're doing. So I can kind of like coach them, show them all the things my dad showed me, like all the things I've learned through trial and error over the, you know, last 30 years, you know, teaching them and then seeing them getting that moment of truth, like putting the crosshairs on the animal, pulling the trigger, being successful, and having their expression when they walk up to it for the very first time. Like that is so cool to me. Like if I could do that every single time, that's all I would do, like beginner hunters. But man, that is, for me, like I told my business partner, like if we could do that from start to finish, like that's what I would do. Obviously we can't, but you know, it's just so cool seeing that, and then having them light up when they send you a photo of, you know, something they've made from the animal they harvested with you is super cool. And just having them, you know, hand it out, cook it for friends, and that's cool, man. That's what Finz and Featherz for me. That's what it's all about.
I love it, man. That's awesome.
We're right at about an hour here. So what do you say, Chad? We just do last calls, basically, where we just talk about really anything that's on your mind as we bring her in for a landing here. So if that sounds good to you, we'll jump into them. My quick one was actually, I did just occur to me that, yeah, you could get some weirdos on some of these Finz and Featherz. And all I could picture in my head, this last call has little to no value other than just personal, I think, entertainment in my head. All I pictured in my head was some MMA fighter sleeping in a tent and then just waking up and some dude's just there like, dude, I've watched you fight, now I watched you sleep. And then just gets taken out. Like,
dude, trust me, it's definitely something we've thought about. And we kind of like, I'll at least talk to these guys on the phone. Like we have a business line. Mm-hmm. And if it starts getting to the point where it's like, all right, they're for sure booking, I'll personally call them. And I kind of fill them out. Like we've had some people where I'm just like, I don't know about this guy. And then, you know, we'll make something happen. But luckily everybody's been super cool so far, and hopefully
good.
it goes that way forever. But
yeah.
no, that's something we've talked about. Like, if I'm weirded out, I'm not sleeping anywhere near that person.
Sir, on a scale of 1 to every square inch of your walls at your home, how many pictures do you have of this celebrity on your wall?
Oh, I've got thousands.
Okay, you're gonna go on our special hunt, which
I'm
is
going through a tunnel.
non-existent. Yeah. Anyway, that was my last call.
All right. Well, my last call is I hope that doesn't happen.
Yeah, thank you. I hope so too.
I'll buy you a lock for your tent. And then I guess, just as we've talked through this, I mean, I just think it's super cool. I mean, you're just a mellow, regular cat, which I think, like, that's one thing I've always loved when we meet and hang out or talk. It's like, it's just Chad, like, you get Chad, and Chad is Chad, and just super cool, way mellow dude, talented. And I guess the other side of that is, like, I'm just, like, I appreciate that, like, you do openly talk about your hunting with, your mainstream, celebrity type person. I think that really, you hit kind of like that broader demographic with that message. And, instead of just like talking to ourselves all the time, you can introduce new people to the outdoors, to that lifestyle, to the hunting component, to the food component, educate folks. And then, on the Finz and Featherz side, really take people from, that A to Z with it that are looking to, try that for the first time. And you take a very experienced people too. But anyway, I just appreciate you for being open with the public about that, because I think it's cool.
I appreciate it, man. Like I said, this is something I absolutely love to do. So none of this ever feels like work. Like, if I get to go on a trip, it doesn't matter where. If it's hunting, fishing, or anything that has to do with it, like, that is fun for me. So it's definitely the passion. And, it's something we've actually talked about doing with Finz and Featherz. And I think it would be a lot of fun. And it's probably something this next year we're going to try to focus on, is doing kind of like a little academy, I guess you can call it, where, like, a Finz and Featherz academy, where, we do get a lot of those people that have never hunted, like I told you about. And what we'll do is, team up with somebody maybe in Texas or something where there's tons of pigs, where it's almost a guarantee that you're going to get something. But you can take these people that have never hunted, teach them how to get their hunter safety, how to get their hunting license, teach them even how to shoot. Some of these people have never shot a gun, you know? And so they're just like, I see you doing it all the time. I want to get into this lifestyle. I just don't know where to start. This course is going to teach you from start to end, like, how to do it all. We'll take them, we'll go through all that, the shooting, the license, all that stuff, and then take them out there, put them through a hunt, get them a pig or something, teach them how to field dress it. Everything that we all know how to do that we pretty much don't think twice about, like, these people have never done. So just showing them from A to B, what do you do? And then I think what would be cool at the end is if you could have, like, a cool chef, like a high-end wild game chef. My buddy from Field to Plate is his Instagram. I'm sure you guys have heard of him.
Oh, yeah.
Jeremy. But he's awesome. We've talked about doing this. I know he's doing this already, but we want to team up. So at the end, after we've showed them how to properly process their game, get all the cuts of meat, and then we'll pair, like, maybe some wine, different wines with different little types of meals from that wild game, like things that we can do at the end. So it's like, look, you can make, there's kind of a stigma like, oh, wild game tastes gamey, it's gross,
Right.
But you're just not doing it right, basically.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
you show them how to do it, and then, that's the course, send them on their way. I think that would be a lot of fun.
The Californian came out right there, the wine pairings.
Mm-hmm.
Totally. But I mean, it can be as simple or as gourmet as you want it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You said wine. I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, that's right. Wine is a thing.
We're close to Napa, man. No,
Yeah.
You pair some wild
You
boar,
gotta
different
if you're
dishes
there.
with some different wines.
We'll bring the cheese.
Yeah, get some cheese in there.
Yeah, well, they have that too, Mark. We pretty much just have
I'll show up.
indigestion. We'll bring
I'll
that.
show up.
Nice.
But sweet.
Well, cool. Well,
Yeah.
thank you guys. I appreciate having me on.
Thank
This
you.
has been a lot of fun. I love doing these podcasts. Get to share a lot of things that people don't know about me. So it's always, anytime you want me on, I'm here.
Heck
Cool,
yeah,
man.
man. We
Appreciate
appreciate it. Yeah. All right. Well, everybody, we're just going to, close her out on the old classic bye.
All right.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Peace.
All right, that'll wrap it up for this episode of the Vortex Nation podcast. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Hit that subscribe button so you can always stay up to date on the latest happenings over here at the Vortex Nation podcast. You can also follow us on Instagram at Vortex Nation Podcast. Again, everybody, thanks and happy hunting and shooting. We appreciate it. Have a good one.